Coming up, we discuss a new menu coming to Whispering Canyon Cafe. Permits have been filed that will radically change the way Epcot looks. We discuss ticket prices at Disney World. In the main segment, we share what attractions we are supposed to love. And at the very end of the show, we have a big WDW Opinion announcement that you won't want to miss. All that and more on this episode of WDW Opinion. Cue the music.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
This is the podcast where two friends, Connor,
You are a child's plaything!
and Hank,
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
share their opinions, tips, and stories about anything and everything at Walt Disney World.
Trust me, what could go wrong?
Get ready, because this is WDW Opinion.
We're in the tower. We are ready for takeoff.
Hello and welcome to episode number 34 of WDW Opinion, the podcast where friends talk Disney. We share our Disney World opinions so that you can start planning for and daydreaming about your next perfect Disney vacation. We share our opinions with our blog, podcast, Facebook live streams, and more. Join the Disney Opinion conversation by following us on social media, where we are at WDW Opinion, and visit WDWOpinion.com to check out our blog posts on all things Disney and to see what we're up to in between episodes. There you can also get a free Disney trip planning checklist when you sign up for our weekly email newsletter. I am your host, Connor Brown, and I'm joined by my co-host and Disney partner in crime, Mr. Hank Molsky. Hank, there's a new robot in Disney World, and I am pretty PO'd about it. You know why?
Tell me why.
Because I have to go to the freaking Planet Hollywood Observatory to see it.
Didn't even know that was a thing.
You hear this crap, man? Oh my God. Plex.
I gotta be real honest. No idea. Didn't even know that was a thing.
Plex, the talking robot, chats up guests at Planet Hollywood in Disney Springs. There's a new robot in town greeting the guests of Planet Hollywood Observatory. Plex, the talking robot, interacts with patrons and poses for photos. According to Planet Hollywood, Plex is the creation of Max, the teenage son of Professor Earl, founder of the Planet Hollywood Observatory. I would like to read the backstory more. I feel like the Planet Hollywood,
pretty in depth.
Planet Hollywood Observatory backstory might be a little forced. All I know is Plex will be hanging out with Monday through Friday from 12 to 8 p.m., and there might be more future plans with Plex down the line, according to the article I'm reading. Listen, this is like total robot out of the 80s, you know?
Oh, yeah. Cosmic rays.
His arm looks like aluminum tubing. He's got a dome on. He's got big googly eyes. He does have a name tag, which I think is funny, like Planet Hollywood name tag. But he goes around and he's beep boop boop. How are you doing today? You know, he moves around and
Danger, Will Robinson. That's the type of robot we're thinking about right there.
I can't believe I'm gonna have to book a reservation at
No,
this
you're
crappy
not.
place.
I didn't even know there was a Planet Hollywood Observatory to begin with. Observatory.
Well, you know, it used to be the Planet Hollywood in downtown Disney, and it was a normal.
So is that
Planet
the
Hollywood.
new name of it now?
Yeah, the new name of it. It used to look exactly like a planet, like Earth. It was circular.
Mm-hmm.
You would walk up to it. And then when it became Disney
Stay
Springs,
up all night.
Disney Springs, they were like, you gotta redo it. You gotta make it look more in line. And it does look more in line, but and it looks very nice, but I think it's the total, you know, euphemism, or the total turn of phrase, I should say. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, from what I hear. It's still not the best food, all that stuff. I do hear Stargazers, which is an outside bar they have there, is supposed to be nice, but
I'm so befuddled by that, Connor. I feel, you know, how much Disney news we read and all that type of thing, and then I see this word observatory, and it's like I've never seen it before. They're trying to trick me. They're trying to lure me in.
they're trying to lure me in with Plex, the talking robot.
Boy, they're
doing a pretty darn good job. Now you know what observatory is because of this robot. Here's a bigger story I think of. I love me a good walk-around robot. I love me a good robot in general. Ooh, boy.
Oh boy.
But I feel like there's none of that anymore in Disney. We talked a couple weeks ago about Kevin, how Kevin, the puppet, the giant, walk around character. Yeah. But that's character. I mean, gone are the days where we had Push, the talking trash can.
Big.
I Can was a robot for a few years in Tomorrowland, kind of, sort of. But then we also had the Muppets Mobile Lab, characters like that. Yeah. And Wally was doing that. And,
very short.
The dinosaur in Dinoland was
even shorter. Oh my God,
shorter.
I forgot about that one. I remember how big of a deal they made that thing out to be.
It was
supposed to be very smart, yeah. And he carried that massive thing that was his battery and computer behind him.
Yeah, and it was something like Wally was like 400 pounds in that small little box that he was in. So, I mean, I don't know. I just think that these attractions or interactions are cool, and I feel like the technology has come so far that we can do so much better, and we need more Plexes, because Plex is clearly created by Planet Hollywood, not by Disney, so...
Yeah, so, well, you've got to come in with Galaxy's Edge, but not on opening day.
Not on opening day.
Droids down the line. Actually, it sounds like there's going to, not walk around, but there's going to be quite a few number of animatronics you can interact with outside of a ride space.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of other things, you can interact with as well. But you can also buy your own droid, and they'll be following you or what have you. Hank, did you think that was a good cold open? Because I do have another cold open.
I saw that on there. I started to think of a joke to respond to it, and I really came up with nothing. You can hit the fans with it, and they can let us know.
All right, second cold open. Facebook and Instagram have been down for many users today. Bob Iger actually commented on this issue by saying, "Hey Zuckerberg, having awful websites crash is our thing. Stay in your lane, punk."
And then Zuckerberg said, "How about we release a flop next year with Morgan Freeman called The Nutcracker Part 2? I don't know. See, I had nothing.
Oh boy. That was in my head because I was doing I got a Disney trip coming up. I was booking some fast passes, and there's this thing I noticed on the website, on the Disney site, that said, watch this tutorial. So I clicked the tutorial. It didn't end up being a video. It was like a click-through thing. And then when I got to the very end, there was no X. I couldn't X out of it.
Uh-oh.
So I had to refresh the page. And, if I see Stitch eat one more page, I'm going to lose it.
Oh, boy. Yeah. No, yeah. I'm glad we went with the first one, so the listeners at home will never have to hear that one. Right, Connor? Right, Connor?
Yeah, because I'll cut it out. I'll cut it out.
And cut.
Yeah, but before I cut it out, let's get to news to opinion. This is our weekly segment where we each pick a recent Disney news story to discuss and share our thoughts and opinions on. My Disney news story of the week is that new menu debuts at Whispering Canyon Cafe. This is coming directly from the Disney Parks blog, so my apologies for all the puns. If you're looking for some good eating and fine fixins...
why would you say cooking? Come on. Who wrote this?
Alex
Can you
Dunlap.
just read it the way that I want it to be read, Connor? Start over.
If you're looking for some good cooking and fine fixins, then I've got some news for you. Whispering Canyon Cafe at Disney's Wilderness Lodge has a rootin' tootin' new menu starting today with skillets galore. So, as everyone knows, the Whispering Canyon Cafe is in the Wilderness Lodge. Kind of immediately when you enter, it's off to the left, across from check-in, concierge, and this has always been a very rowdy kind of restaurant. It's a fun-filled restaurant, is known for its sassy cast members, old Western games, and fine frontier fare. Well, it now includes a whole new array of all you care to enjoy signature skillets for lunch and dinner, and breakfast skillets starting later this month as well. So starting with a hearty lunch option, the signature lunch skillet comes with maple chipotle barbecue slow smoked pork ribs, barbecued pulled pork, and citrus herb chicken. On the dinner menu, you can try the traditional dinner skillet with oak smoked mustard barbecue beef brisket, maple chipotle barbecue pork ribs, slow smoked pulled pork, and citrus herb chicken. You can also pig out on the pig dinner skillet with heaping helpings of braised pork belly, maple bacon maple chipotle barbecue pork ribs. God, there's so much pork. Slow smoked pulled pork and
Say
mustard.
the word smoked one more time.
I mean, I got like 9 more of these to get through. So yeah, and mustard barbecue piggy wings. Both of these particular skillets also come with Western style sausage as well. And they also have a land and sea dinner skillet, which has house smoked salmon, chicken, vegan sausage, and charred portobellos. And then there's a full vegan dinner skillet as well, which has a bunch of vegan and beefless things that are trying to pretend to be meat but aren't. There's a couple new desserts, a couple new cocktails. There's a breakfast skillet coming later, things like that. So Hank, I was talking about this the other night on the WDW Opinion Facebook live stream, which we do every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. You should tune into that next Tuesday whenever you're listening to this. It's a good time. I was talking about this, and I was saying how I feel like it's cool, but it's also strange at the same time, because that's a resort that has just had a major refurbishment when it comes to dining.
Yes.
Artist Point, which was their signature dining location, just went under a refurb and opened a few months ago. With the Storybook character dining now, that's a completely different thing. You'd think they're going to keep Whispering Canyon the same for a while so that it can have, options that people can enjoy that aren't, a character meal, something like that. They've always had one skillet, and it was always the traditional skillet, but now it seems like they're really pushing you to do this, and it's making this what used to be a kind of affordable meal, kind of higher on the price end, but not breaking
crazy.
the bank. Now it's making it seem like it is almost breaking the bank, because now the main entrees, Hank, there's only 3 to choose from.
Gosh, that's crazy.
A New York strip, a cedar plank salmon, and pan-fried red quinoa cakes.
Interesting choice
Indeed. A thing to notice about the all you care to enjoy signature skillets is they start at, they actually are each $33
Man, God, that's
per person. So even though this is all you care to enjoy, you'd say, hey, can we just get one? We're going to split it. It's going to be $33 no matter how much you eat, no matter how many people participate. It's $33
smack
per
in the
person.
face.
It's expensive. I did it a couple years ago, when they had the traditional one, and it's a lot of food, but it's kind of the Ohana, I think, vibe where it comes out a lot. It could be cold. This is pretty good because they bring out all at once to you, but it's also anytime there's an all you care to enjoy thing, it's usually we're cooking a lot of it. We're going to have it ready quickly. You're going to, gorge yourself quickly, and then you're going to get out, quickly as well. The turnover rate is going to be big here.
Don't like that direction.
I don't. I mean, I think it's interesting. I like the land and sea skillet. I like the pig skillet. I think that's an interesting, take. But at the end of the day, when it's $33 and your only real other option is Storybook Dining, which is basically a signature dining location, you're kind of running out of options. Luckily, they have the, goodness gracious, the Geyser Point that they just opened.
Go eat by the pool.
Go eat by the pool.
Actually, that's a great. You know what? That's really elevating one of your favorite spots now down there to get like a nice, for more or less, it's a quick service meal down by the pool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Roaring Fork, which is their dedicated quick service location, kind of at the bottom of the lobby. I think that's one of the better.
Yeah.
Resort quick service locations.
Tight
as well.
area. That area, I could imagine that getting a revamp soon.
Yeah.
It's tiny down there. The times that I've been down there recent years, that one little congested cash register in the corner there, you almost forget about that space. I did just then.
And you have to think, you're going to start to get it's a big resort. I mean, there's 2 DVC components on top of a deluxe resort.
Yeah.
While yes, there is 4 dining locations, there's still, I think, they might, benefit from having one more. I think it can certainly accommodate a lot of people right now. But once Reflections, the new DVC one that's opening in between Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness opens, you're going to get a lot more foot traffic from people just walking over there. So I think time will tell with that. But for now, there's a ton of new skillets, expensive skillets, but albeit new food at Whispering Canyon Cafe. Hank, what is your Disney news story of the week?
Some fairly new news. This is from the Disney blog, not to be confused with the Disney Parks blog. Different website. It is permit filed to begin transformation of Epcot's entrance and Future World Core. Stuff we've spoken about previously on the show, but here's the news story and then we'll dive in. Epcot recently announced a new main entrance, old news, and a play pavilion, old news, coming to the Future World portion of the park. This is a previously announced makeover of the core section of Future World that will include removal of the original Communicore Innovations building. This week, Disney filed its first permit signaling that the demolishing of some of those structures is about to begin. Stuff that is more or less new. I think it's always just been assumed. This graph here is the telling part that we want to discuss. It's believed that the main buildings behind being demolished include Club Cool, Starbucks, and a handful of character meet and greets in the former Innovations West area. The character meet and greets will find temporary homes in other places of the park, like the Imagination Pavilion and the eventual permanent homes of the new Play Pavilion. Starbucks will probably be relocated somewhere else, and Club Cool has an uncertain future. Could this be the end of Beverly, Connor? It may be, or at least the free shots.
Yeah, it may be the end of Beverly as we know it. If you don't know, Club Cool is where you can go get free Coca-Cola samples from around the world. It's at the very end of Innovations on the right side as you walk, into the park. I think Hank is right. This is something that we basically knew when they announced it. I think it was that last D23 that Epcot was going to be undergoing an incredible transformation. The artist renderings that we saw were very much, okay, that section of the park, the Innovations area, the fountain there is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
When they announced, the new entrance a couple weeks back, we saw that there was going to be a new fountain there. The legacy stones were being moved to the outside of the park. And then they alluded, plus Innovations behind Epcot. Still more to come on that front. We'll let you know at a later date. I think what's telling is there's no mention of, on this blog, there's no mention of Mouseworks going anywhere for the time being.
Yes.
I think there's going to be a renovation for that. So you have to think.
It does feel a little dated, especially if they were going to update everything around it.
And that's the second largest in-park store at Disney World behind the Emporium. You have to think like each park has a very big merchandise store at the front. They have to include that just because it makes so much money.
Yeah.
Starbucks, I think, is weird because from what I've always heard, it's a cash cow. I mean, anytime you go into any of the Starbuckses in the parks, lines are out the door. People need their caffeine. They want something familiar. Club Cool, while, yes, a very popular attraction, and I think I'm right in calling it attraction, I can't say there would be a whole lot of revenue lost from that if you cut that out.
Gained, right? Yeah,
probably.
I don't think people. I mean, unless they're selling merchandise, which they license so much of that to Coke, anyways. Or there's some type of agreement there. But it's not holding enough people hourly. People are. It's never filled to the brim in that space. It's not occupying enough people.
I think it's a thing where it's very much a Disney fan thing. We're Disney fans. We're going in there. Everyone else in the park is bypassing it. They don't understand it.
Yes,
it is a little tucked away, so you have to, kind of walk around Starbucks to get to it. People probably don't know about it. Yeah. So I understand that. I think what's still up in the air is where these things are going to go. We have to assume, they're going to stick with Starbucks, put it somewhere else, and then bring it back. Who really knows? I think there's so much that's still up in the air, and it is interesting because you can do something like take away all of this stuff, but what does it do at the end of the day? Like, let's compare this to what they did a few years back in Magic Kingdom. They took all the trees away from the hub in front of the castle, and they expanded that area to be grass. They expanded the hub so that it covered more of the bridges, so it covered more of the waterways. Why did they do that? So that they could have better viewing for parades and, more importantly, better viewing for fireworks and nighttime shows. This isn't something that they're dealing with there. So if they're getting rid of all that, buildings and stuff, what's going to come in its replace? We have to assume there's going to be things coming to replace it.
Sure does sound like it's going to be the expansion of the year-round festival park into that area.
That could be very interesting, where it starts diving into less World Showcase, more booths in Future World.
It's almost kind of like I view it as, now the name is escaping me. It's the Smokehouse one, or the Smoky Fire one.
That's the one that's basically, if you walk through Club Cool, you would run into it. Like, you can cut through it.
What was the name of that one this year? It was new.
Those ones are always. I have.
But yeah, it's growing into that area. I almost see it like as an expansion of that. Like that was that test. Will people walk all the way over here to get food for a festival? Yes, it will. Let's expand it. It's going to grow even more now in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's plenty of fun takes on food that they could do there. So who knows if that's going to happen. But I think if, Disney's very big into filing permits just to make sure that they can do it. I mean, they can always do it, but just to get their ducks in a row, and then they have pulled back. But I think that this one is pretty much confirmed that they're going to be doing it, and there's going to be an announcement sooner rather than later about that. Hank, since we're talking about Club Cool, do you know the Coca-Cola partnership that Disney has?
No, I don't. Lay it on me.
Pretty incredible. Coca-Cola gives Disney all of the fountain beverages for absolutely free.
Wow.
They don't pay a dime. Coke sees it as an incredible marketing opportunity. However, if you buy a bottle of soda, then Disney is buying that soda from Coca-Cola in the parks. But think of the number of, fountain drinks that are sold each and every day. Yeah, and think of how expensive they are when compared to other places. And that Disney is only buying, purchasing the ice.
Yeah, they're making more money off that than the alcohol in the park.
And now they only have to pay for the cup because they're getting rid of the lids and the straws.
Boy, yeah, the rum and the Coke is really a cash cow for them.
Oh my gosh.
Don't just get a shot of rum. Would you like some Coke with that?
Margins are incredible.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. New menu debuts at Whispering Canyon Cafe, and some permits have been filed for Epcot's future. Now it's time for the ticket saga. This week, Disney announced a rise in ticket prices. Even though they do this about twice a year, and even though everyone knew it was coming, the people of the internet still lost their collective minds. While we can hate on the people who get upset, we still wanted to address it on this episode of the podcast. We want to discuss what all occurred, but mainly, Hank has an interesting story to tell. So Hank, why do you kick things off with this ticket price increase?
Sure. So I thought it was cool, interesting. You did link to the story from the Diz, WDWinfo.com, which is Walt Disney World increases park ticket, park hopper add-on, and premium parking prices. Peter Piper, parking premium passes. So this is how the story reads. There have been a couple of ticket increases that went in effect today at Walt Disney World. This was on March 12th, so Tuesday before this podcast was released, that guests should be aware of. The following increases are effective immediately. The option to add a park hopper to a one-day park ticket has increased to $60, up $5 from $55. 2- and 3-day tickets are now $70, up $5 from $65. And 4-day to 10-day tickets are now $80, up $5 from $75.
And I believe that whole thing is for the park hopper option.
Correct. and then the other quote, I do want to highlight the other quote. There has been no change to the lowest price ticket, which starts at $109 for a one-day theme park-based ticket. And then, hang on, I'm skipping around this story. Finally, the date-based ticket prices have shown an increase in one-day tickets and multi-day tickets, and they are working on specifics. So, I didn't see this story. So this is really interesting to me. Is I'm actually planning a trip at the end of the month in March with my wife, and we had been getting ready to purchase tickets, deciding if we were going to park hop or buy one-day tickets, and waiting, kind of sitting around. And this morning we decided, like, okay, let's dive in. And I got on this morning, and the prices had all changed, and not like when you're doing it, and this is the thing that you got to remember for people that are booking with large families or vacations in bulk, is granted it was only for like 2 days, we're going over a weekend, but Connor, when we picked 2 people, 2 tickets, so 2 people, 2 tickets over 2 days, the difference in just the base price for that weekend was almost $100. For, with the changes that went into effect. And like Disney's saying, or even in this blog post, is that this Disney, they have this ability now to do flex pricing and kind of just say bulk statements like, well, the park hopper's like $5 more expensive, but then they can really go in and fine tune stuff to a pretty high like level of, accuracy to what they're expecting in the crowds those days or in the parks. So like our weekend really saw like quite the inflate in price, because Disney could have said, you know what, we've sold not enough. We've sold quite a few tickets for this weekend. We need people to start reconsidering how they're purchasing tickets. So my example of this was, like I was saying to my wife earlier about this, we were on the fence between going park hopper or 1 day, 1 park per day, just the base ticket. And once these prices went up, we were like, oh, okay, we're definitely just going to do the 1 park per day now. So Disney effectively curbed more people in more parks throughout that day by the raise in prices. So it's interesting to see that take effect, right in the middle of us booking everything.
It is interesting, and I think there's so much that goes into just tickets alone that it's become an incredibly complicated system in an already incredibly complicated vacation planning process. Yeah. I was watching the video that Disney put out because, last October, Disney World announced the flexible ticket model, which, as Hank was saying, basically means that ticket prices vary depending on the date a guest chooses to visit. So each date has a different number assigned with it, and they vary from, day to day, from month to month, week to week. When they were saying that there's been no change to the lowest priced ticket, which starts as $109, yeah, that's true. That is the lowest priced ticket. That's the cheapest ticket you can find. But now all the more expensive tickets have gone up even more. As an example, a 4-day base theme park ticket starting on July 4th, which is one of the most busiest times of the year, will now cost $9 more per day than compared to the previous pricing. But on the flip side of that, a 1-day base theme park ticket from Christmas Day to New Year's, which is also probably the busiest week of the year, will now cost $159 for a 1-day theme park ticket. That's an increase of over $30 for the previously published pricing. Now, of course, there's a lot of elements to that. 1-day tickets are always more expensive than a 4-day ticket in the grand scheme of things. So the more days you add onto your tickets, the less each day costs. But on top of that, now you have to plan which day you're actually going to go. So you'll pick a window and you'll say, I want to go on the 12th through the 14th, or I want to, get a 3-day ticket this week in November. Disney says, great. Your tickets are going to come out to $103 a day, but you have to show up on this date first, and then you have 6 days to use your remaining 2 days. Also, what Disney's able to do is say, but if you want to be able to use these tickets whenever, that's great, no problem. We have that new ticket model, the Flex ticket model, and if you pay an extra premium, you can use these days whenever you want. Of course, you can go in.
Silly.
Yeah, of course, you can go in there and change it up, but if you don't have the Flex option, you're going to probably get charged more money. Just like if you have an airline reservation and you say, hey, I actually want to go on this date. A lot of airlines will say, no problem, you can change it, but that ticket costs more on that day. Yep. So you're going to have to pay the difference.
Yeah, so I think we're just starting to see, this is one of the first times that we've seen this pricing change take effect mid-new calendar, or, fluctuating pricing dates, especially for multi-day tickets. And it's giving us kind of this first look, or a new look, I should say, not first look, about how Disney basically has the ability all year round to just go, boom, everything's this price now. We can fiddle with dates because, right now, Connor, I looked out just because I wanted to see what had changed, and it was really just for stuff in the not too distant future. Unlike, like you said, you're looking at the holidays already, and those are starting to jump up. But I went out to late August after Galaxy's Edge opens up, early September, and that's where I'm seeing that 109 number. I don't think that's going to be true come early August, and the hype is building up around that. I think you'll see Disney, those as windows, as you get closer and closer to the date, it's going to benefit to be booking further in advance, where I think that those dates in early September are going to jump. There's no way that's going to be $109 on October or August 20th,
And Hank, I'm actually, as of late, taking the complete opposite belief in what you just said.
Really?
So last week, Disney announced, much to everyone's surprise, that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge will be opening the end of August 28th, 29th?
29th.
29th. Yes. Originally, they were saying it was going to be late fall. Everyone thought it's going to open just in time for Christmas. What they're doing is basically saying, okay, we're going to open the park, this land, but it's going to be a soft opening right in August.
Yep.
There's going to be a grand opening because with the soft opening in August, they're only opening one ride, which is the Millennium Falcon. They're probably going to do some interesting maneuvers. I don't think they've said anything about if they're going to have Fast Pass when it opens. They won't have Fast Pass when it opens in Disneyland. So there's going to be some interesting tactics to it. This is what I think. I think there were so many people that were waiting for the dates to come.
I got you. They're trying to sell tickets then.
And Disney said it was going to be late fall. People were saying, let's plan our vacation around late fall to hit it at this point. Once Disney said, hey, we're actually doing it end of August, people are now saying, that's not what we were planning for. We can't do that. Let's just stick to our guns and go a couple months after. Yeah. I think that day is going to be incredibly busy. That week is still going to be incredibly busy. But I think there's going to be a lull than what we're anticipating. Sure. And if you look on, if you look on the Disney website, you can get some pretty good deals for that week, hotel-wise. You can still get that Sun and the Fun package. You can get, dining plan in July still. So I think what that does is it's Disney saying, oh crap, this summer's not looking good. We got to change this up. Open that one ride. Hopefully that'll bring in new people so that we can, drum up some money for that.
Now, the other thing, though, to not discredit kind of my idea here, for that weekend that makes total sense. But they can still go, hey, this is getting pretty full. We can bump up the price a little bit. Don't you think that they have that ability now?
Sure, absolutely.
So which we're not expecting them to go, hey, this is going to be so crowded now. But they do have that ability now. Like that weekend that we're going jumped a lot for seemingly no reason. But it could have been crowded that weekend. I don't know. They have that ability now.
And I think when it came to it, it used to be ticket prices would go up once or twice a year by a couple of bucks. Yes. But now with this flex thing where every day is almost a different price, I think we're just going to see more and more ticket prices throughout the year.
Yes.
We're going to see
what else they're doing, Connor? And you already pointed it out. They are stress testing the hell out of that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Most popular day of the year, sure, $30. Why not? You know? I mean, that is a stress test in the flesh right there, right before our eyes. They're like, how much will these suckers pay?
They're basically going all in, and
Yeah.
they want you to call their bluff because they're not bluffing. They'll take your money no matter what it is.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. I mean, it's just becoming a more premium experience. This is, like Bob Iger said, and Bob Chapek has said, this is the revenue arm right now.
Absolutely. And I think for the people that are planning trips, luckily, the dates that are on the cheaper end are almost always going to be dates that are less crowded. It's a total supply and demand thing. Yep. And there's almost always going to be, maybe a vacation package that Disney is offering for that. So I think if you're going during those busy times, yes, you're going to see a crap load of people. You're going to see very high hotel rates. And now you're also going to see very high ticket rates. So if you try to plan your trips around those off times, that's when you can start seeing a significant savings when compared to, Christmas week, 4th of July week, weeks like that.
And hey, it pays to do a little bit of research too, because I went ahead. Here's a little pro tip. I used Touring Plan's ticket calculator just to see. I was like, oh crap, I waited like a day too late. So I went in and I just used their calculator to see if it had been updating things. And I was like, hey, this is like the price that it's showing for the 2-day base ticket that you can get on that weekend that you're going. I was like, yep, that's the price that I saw yesterday. Let's see if I can actually get it. Go to the third-party site, went through, and sure enough, guaranteed price was the old one. So I got them.
And I think that's always a great tool because you can buy from other third parties. You don't have to buy.
Third party's going to have to eat the extra $100 now too.
You don't always have to buy directly from Disney. There are companies that make it their business to buy tickets from Disney at wholesale, and then they sell them to you, at a reduced cost. A lot of the times the cost is only, $10 here or there, but if you add it up, over a family of 4 or 5, that's a good chunk of change in your pocket. And then obviously the more days, the cheaper they become. I would say a word of caution, make sure they are a Disney verified site because there's plenty of, bad people out there, both online and in the greater Orlando area that are selling fake tickets. So you don't want to get caught up in that racket. But like Hank was saying, using a feature like Touring Plan, touringplans.com's.
Yeah, they're only going to list verified sellers.
Exactly. The Undercover Tourist is another great one. The Ticket Center, I believe, is another one.
I actually got mine through the Ticket Center, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Listen, it's a very complicated system that's in place. If you have any questions at all, you can email me, Connor, CONOR, at WDWopinion.com. We'd love to, answer any questions you have about this, or if there's any way we can help, maybe help you plan your trip or something like that, I'd be more than happy to reach out and give my advice. All right, Hank, well, that's enough math talk for me tonight.
Yep, okay. Let's do some calculus in the next segment.
Oh, I'd love to. A couple weeks ago, I posted a photo on Facebook and Instagram. It was of the entrance to It's a Small World. Now, this is an iconic attraction for sure, but I posed a question in my caption. Do we actually hate It's a Small World, or do we really just love to hate it? The response we got was overwhelming. Almost 250 comments later, and I realized that the vast majority of people really actually love that ride. It's funny because that doesn't always seem to be the case when it comes to classic attractions. Nowadays, more than ever, Disney attractions are getting bigger, faster, better themed, and overall throwing you into areas you've never experienced before. It's an interesting comparison when you have a ride like It's a Small World just down the road from something like Avatar: Flight of Passage. Both are loved by many, but for completely different reasons. So this whole line of questioning got us thinking, what are the attractions we are supposed to love? Why are we supposed to love them? And when it comes right down to it, do we actually love them? It's going to be an interesting discussion we'll be having this week on WDW Opinion. So Hank, I think we were discussing what attractions should be included in this list, and we kept coming up with old school or classic attractions. So why do you think that was always the case? Why do you think when we came with the question of what are the attractions you're supposed to love, we kept coming up with classic old school attractions?
That's the thing, is that I think that there are two main ingredients to this segment, to any attraction in this segment. It has to be a ride, an attraction that doesn't hold up to the competitors in Disney World itself, or competing parks around the world. And there has to be some type of legacy attached to it. Otherwise, it doesn't really compute. If something comes out and it's a dud, which, boy, we got to think about this. What attractions have opened up and just been total duds? I mean, we can Stitch type of thing.
Yeah.
Where they're newer and they've been a dud, or, Alien Encounter type of thing. They don't last long. The ones that are beloved have been around for a long time, so that's that other piece. And then they end up sitting next to these giants, the new ones, the Pandora rides of the world. So I think that's those two pieces. There's that component of they've been around for so long, there's stories connected to them, there's history. It's part of what Disney World is. So, you know what? There's this feeling around these old ones that you're supposed to love this because it's a classic. And in some cases, you latch onto that. And in others, maybe you don't. Or you can kind of see through it and go, yeah, I can see why that ride stinks.
And I agree with that. And I think when someone says, so often you hear like, why do you like that ride? And you're like, how can you not? It's a classic. Like, saying it's a classic isn't a good reason. I mean, and people say that all the time about movies, about books. You're like, oh, it's the classics, Anytime anyone says that about literature, like, you got to read the classics, you know how difficult it is to read the classics?
Right.
Yeah, they're interesting stories, but at the end of the day, it's hard to get through.
Right.
So I think that when we're saying, what are the attractions we're supposed to love, we almost always go to the classics because, hey, they've been around for a while, they must be doing something right.
And it's that term that people say with movies, with books, and, people should say it more often in theme parks, and that's what I think we're going to do a little bit of tonight, is, does it hold up? Where you dust off the old book, you dust off that old VHS, if you have a VHS player, or a DVD, something that's, come on streaming that you haven't watched in a decade or longer, and you tell someone the next day, you know what, that movie held up, or that book held up after all those years. Some rides do, and some rides, frankly, don't. And we got to be more comfortable with some of them that will eventually be sunsetting on us, so away we go.
So let's start with one that I brought up at the top of the segment. It's a Small World.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to classic attractions, this is one of the quintessential ones. So, Hank, why are we supposed to love this ride?
It is Disney. It is Disneyland. It is Disney World. It's that tune. It's got the iconic song. It's the ride that people think of more than any other, I think. Maybe a little bit less so now in the 21st century. But for the better part of, many decades, 50, 60 years, that was the Disney thing. They invented It's a Small World, that catchy song that got in your head. Moving animatronics, which, way back at the beginning was pretty revolutionary, the number of the ones that were in there. And it's like an earworm that you can't quite get it out of your head. And Disney can't quite get it out of their park.
Exactly. That's completely true. And when it did come about, it launched at the 1964-65 World's Fair in New York. It was a pavilion that, Walt Disney and his Imagineers, his WED Imagineers, got commissioned to create. And they actually built that from idea to creation in, I believe it was 9 months, which is the quickest attraction any attraction had ever been built, which is interesting, how quickly it was built, that it's been around for so long. That 64-65 World's Fair version got shipped out to Anaheim, and then when the park opened at Magic Kingdom, It's a Small World was there in Florida. I think what's so unique about it is it was one of the first attractions that really set Disney apart in this isn't just a roadside amusement park. There's theming behind it. It was treated like a movie. There are scenes throughout. There are animatronics. And who on God's green earth before that would say, let's dedicate time, money, and resources to making a song just for an attraction, a song that's actually, if it's good or if it's bad, it will stick with you.
Yeah. So that's the Small World one. See, and that's why it's still there. It's because there's that much history. If you put that up to just about any other dark ride or, water ride in the Magic Kingdom, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't. But the history does. And that's why it's there.
And that's, a lot of the comments we were getting on that Facebook and Instagram post about, do we actually love this ride? Everyone was saying, yes, it's so meaningful to me because I remember going on it as a kid. And that's also the Disney difference. I remember going on as a kid. I have such great memories and family trips associated with it. And now I love taking my kids, my grandkids on that ride. Yeah. And Small World, I think,
my friends on
is
it,
one of it.
Torture.
But torture them. But Hank, do we actually like Small World?
It's a loaded question. How are we going to answer this? Are we answering this from the attraction level, or are we talking about like this whole equation? I feel like we're supposed to take the frank look at just the ride without the history, without the nostalgia. If you detach everything from it, no, it's not a good attraction. Fact of the matter, If you detach it from everything, I gotta say no. There's other rides that have that sheer number of stuff. That's my answer to it, at least. It's just an opinion.
No, I think when you compare it to other things, when you compare it even to Pirates, it's the same system and things like that. I think, it doesn't hold a candle to it.
But of course I love it. I go on it all the time. But if you look at it from a purely attraction standpoint, it doesn't hold up. That's the point of this segment.
That's true. And I think, our next attraction, we might have some different feelings on it. So, Carousel of Progress. Another 1964-65 World's Fair pavilion. Carousel of Progress is interesting because it's in Tomorrowland and it hasn't been updated in decades. So the final scene is, a grandma playing VR, and the VR is 30 years old, and the VR isn't what we actually have today.
No.
There's so much that we do have and we don't have. It's just weird. I think that this is the reason it stands up is because it tells a story, which every iconic Disney attraction does. It tells a story from start to finish. It has a lot of interesting elements, like you're in a moving theater, you sit in the theater, it moves, the other things don't move in front of it, you actually move physically. It's got that history from the World's Fair. Walt's fingerprints are on it. It has those iconic audio animatronics. It's got a great Disney song in it as well.
Yeah.
But I think that final scene, and I hear this so often from people, is what sours everyone. Like if you stop right at, the 50 or the 60s, when that scene right before, present day is, I think that's an awesome attraction. You would call it something else, like the Carousel of, I don't know what you would. I guess you could still call it Carousel of Progress. It just doesn't need to end today. So this one is interesting of why we're supposed to like it and do we actually like it. I think why we're supposed to like it is just that it was at the World's Fair and Walt had his fingerprints on it.
Yeah, and the Imagineers just do not want to touch that thing.
Because not a lot of people have that same, emotional, almost visceral reaction that they do when they go on It's a Small World. There's not that whole emotional tie to it, I don't think, other than maybe the song.
Yeah, people just do not want to touch it. I feel like it's forgotten, though. It's kind of in that corner of Tomorrowland where it's not it's not offending a lot of people, you know?
Yeah, it's not offending a lot of people other than what is Tomorrowland, you know? That doesn't necessarily belong there. I think it's the perfect place to put it in Magic Kingdom if you're going to put it there. But I think, you know,
I do think its days are numbered.
We're constantly hearing about Tomorrowland about to, you know, have an incredible change, an incredible rebirth, a renaissance. If that is on the chopping block, who's to know? I mean, I think
it'll find a new home, somewhere. I can't even begin to think where, but you're right. When you see that Tomorrowland in the future, it just doesn't feel like that's going to withstand the test of time.
I agree. I agree. And then if we go, you know, kind of almost to the opposite side of Magic Kingdom. Why are we supposed to like Peter Pan's Flight?
Well, because there's a 90-minute wait every second of the day.
And I love how you brought that up too, because I have a point to make about that a little later on as well. Because there's a 90-minute wait, it's almost supposed to say that, oh, it's popular, it's great, you got to go on it. And I think for this reason, I think Peter Pan is such a popular, you know, movie, and it still is today. And I don't think people really understand its popularity until you see that line. And that's almost the reason of why we should like this.
I have a hard time with this one. We really do make a lot of jokes about it with the length of the queue, but it is the least rewarding attraction, in my opinion, wait to ride time ratio, or I should even say entertainment. Of course, it is going to be the smallest for the amount of time that you're on the attraction versus the time that you wait. The ratio is already really low. But I even think from an entertainment value, it's like, man, you wait a long time for a pretty dated dark ride with not great props or animatronics. And boy, you even look at like, where's the newest one? Is the newest one in Shanghai or Tokyo?
I think yeah.
With the big windows that open up, like actually open up, it's gorgeous. I just watched it. I think it is in Tokyo. But when you watch another one of those attractions, even if you add on 30 seconds, it just makes you feel like the one in Disney World, there's not much of a reason why you should be so attached to it, in my opinion. Again, these are all just opinions.
So there is a Peter Pan's Flight in Shanghai Disneyland, which is the newest.
Shanghai. Okay, that's what it is then.
That's the newest one. It looks very similar to it, but
yeah, like all the animatronics are just new though, you know? Like the windows actually open up like really splendidly when you go through. All the characters are moving a little bit more. The paint doesn't look like the neon lights are chipping below you.
Yeah, and
like
I think
crime scene.
Or yeah, it's like a black light. I think with this one, and let me just say something. If it sounds like Hank and I are, you know, hating on old school rides that
we love all these anyways.
we love all these, and there's plenty of rides that we love that are stupid, that have bad animatronics, that have bad set design. And we'll get to those on a later episode, but for now we really want to focus on, you know, what are the pros of these things and why are we supposed to like them if the pros are, you know, this, and this? With Peter Pan, I always think that the pros aren't, if it's like a cost-benefit analysis, you don't get out what you put in. You know, I think
no, you do not.
Yeah, because it is so quick and it is like, that was that? And you're like, why is everything so little? The two coolest scenes are flying over London, and actually, that's the coolest scene. Flying over London and your first takeoff. I think the ride vehicle is cool. I think it's something unusual where no other ride are you looking down. So that is cool. And
you know what I say for Peter Pan, though? I mean, in my opinion, if you want to go on, it feels even weird to say it, but a similar ride experience with a similar pace, similar viewing, but much higher entertainment value, go on the People Mover, man. I mean, you've got like that moving sidewalk that you get right onto the ride. It just feels like you're going to get way more bang for your buck. You're on that for like a full 7 minutes.
Hey, You don't have to convince me to go on it, man.
I said you heard it here first. The weightless queue for the People Mover is a better attraction than Peter Pan's flight.
The Goodyear moving walkway. I think Peter Pan is also interesting because nowadays we're constantly hearing people complain about whenever Disney opens an attraction that is just a retelling of the film. Case in point,
good point. Very
The Little
good
Mermaid.
Point. Yeah.
You know, you go on a clamshell and you literally go scene by scene through the movie. It doesn't add anything to canon or what have you. It's just taking the movie and turning it into an attraction. People say that's lazy. We hate that, blah, blah, blah. And then they wait 90 minutes for Peter Pan, which is the originator of that whole thing.
Hold up. All right, what's next, Connor?
The Hall of Presidents.
Hey, see, I don't think we're not gonna ruffle too many feathers on this one. This is another one of your World's Fairs or parts of it, and it just kind of is there in that well-themed part of Magic Kingdom that's never going away. And it's long, but I don't know how much nice stuff I have to say about it, except that it's nice and air conditioned.
I think when you go in, if you are, an American, you do feel pride.
History nut. Yeah.
Yeah, you do feel pride when you come out. And I think that's important. And that's always what, Walt Disney, he was an American first, he would always say, or he would always believe, I think. And that's why he was so fascinated with American history and things like that. So that's why it's important. I think
it fits beautifully into that area of the park. Let's just say that much.
Exactly. That's what it is. I think, not to get like on a soapbox or anything, but I think from a patriotism standpoint, Disney World couldn't exist in any other country, or Disneyland, I guess you could say. Walt Disney's story is the American dream, coming from nothing, building an empire, making your dreams come true. It's the land of opportunity. So I think that's why we're supposed to like it, because the Hall of Presidents says what this country is about, what America is about, and then Walt Disney just enacted upon that.
Yep. And then so there's a great deal of history attached to the ride, far beyond the Walt Disney Company on this one, which is why it's there and which is why it's, an important part for a lot of people's trips. But from the attraction standpoint, this one may be, just detach everything that we just said, maybe the worst attraction out of all of these, because it's a motionless theater that you watch animatronics move. I mean, that's the fact of the matter.
Yeah, and the majority of it is a film. It's a film in the very end.
Yeah.
The animatronics are revealed to do, the roll call.
Great point.
And the roll call is just a bunch of them nodding their heads while the light is illuminated on them. And then, the sitting president gives their speech. So right now, President Trump gives his speech. In the years before, it was President Obama. So stuff like that. So that's interesting. And I wrote in American Adventure because I think that kind of piggybacks off of the same thing. American Adventure, the attraction in the America Pavilion at Epcot. This is a very long attraction. I think it's almost close to 30 minutes. And let me just say, from a technology standpoint, this thing is insane. It almost works. It has moving stage elements below that had never been done before. So, since they're all animatronics, but it's on a stage, one animatronic goes under, moves all the way back into the show, or comes up towards you, under your seat. You don't know that, as another one is being put into place to then come up on stage. I think we're supposed to like it because that same kind of patriotic idea, that same kind of thing of what Epcot, the World Showcase was about. It tells the story of America and it tells the American adventure. I think at the end of the day, it becomes a place where people just, go to take a nap.
So while we're in Epcot, Connor, I'm looking at this next one, and even as and this is the fun part about these episodes, is we script them, but we go off script a little bit. A lot of it. We're out of control. We're off the rails.
Yeah,
no,
we are. Always.
I wrote Spaceship Earth down because it does feel like a dated old ride with that kind of incomplete ending, similar to a Carousel of Progress type of situation, where you can reskin it and you can retheme it, but it's going to be dated just because of the story that it tells through so much of it.
Yeah, you end with the personal computer in the 70s as it was being built, not as it was being sold.
However, talking about these other rides and these other attractions in Disney parks, this is still pretty cool because you're inside the geodesic sphere no matter what. You know?
That's exactly
This one has that special element to it just because, I mean, it's incredible. The show building, you know?
You know, and I think when you think of what Epcot, originated as, it was Future World was that area of progress, of, as Walt Disney was going to call it, Progress City. That was his early ideas for it. So if you think of Spaceship Earth as an introduction to Epcot, which is what it is, it's the first thing you pass by as you walk into the park. If you were to go on that ride, what it is you learn the communication history of man up until it basically opened in the 80s.
Sure.
And then as you exit, you go out into Future World, you see what's going to come, and you go into World Showcase and you see what is today and what is the history of our cultures. So in that, sphere, no pun intended, that's what they're trying to encapsulate.
And is it a dark ride that's a little dated? Yes. Is the ride system feel a little clunky? Yes. Is the ending less than satisfying for a modern day audience? Definitely. But the animatronics are pretty good. The show building is incredible. The show scenes are pretty damn good, and it's a unique ride track, which is, we're talking about these other ones. You've got that whole element of swirling up around it and then shooting back down the center of the geodesic sphere. It's interesting enough to hold the attention of a lot of people, and makes sense in the context of the park, like you're saying.
Plus, we got that sweet audio from Dame Judi Dench.
Yeah.
And
another thing, when we're talking about days are numbered, I feel like with that re-theme of Future World, I feel like her audio may not have many years left on it.
I can't remember if it was a rumor or if it was confirmed, but Spaceship Earth is going to be undergoing a major refurb as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dame Judi Dench, I think, has only been there since the early 2000s. It started with Walter Cronkite, was one of the first ones.
Who was it when we were growing up? Because it wasn't Judi Dench.
I can't remember. Jeremy Irons.
That's who it was. One. Yes, of course.
And the original script, which only lasted a couple years, was written by Ray Bradbury.
Huh.
Fahrenheit 451. Good friend of Walt Disney. He loved Walt Disney. And he was actually a big consultant on Epcot, being the futurist that he was. So that's, why we have to love Spaceship Earth. It's because it's the flagship attraction, at least when it opened, of Epcot. It basically told the Epcot story before you got there.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that we do really, really love that attraction.
Yeah, we do really like that ride.
Now, one that you put on the list, Hank, is the Country Bear Jamboree. And I'm going to fight you a little bit on this, not because of what you think. I love this attraction. I absolutely love this attraction.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're kind of on the fence about it.
On the fence, yes.
I don't know if this is particularly an attraction we have to love.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Lay it on me. Go for it.
The reason being is all of these attractions, that we have to love are still here, right? They still remain throughout.
Yeah.
For the most part. The Country Bear Jamboree in Disneyland was taken away. It was replaced by Winnie the Pooh. Now, this was an attraction that was intended for Disney World, so that's why it's still there. I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily one that we have to love. You should love it. It's incredible. I love every second of it. I eat it up. I gotta go. I gotta go next time I'm there. I haven't seen it a couple times, but it is just so good. But if we do take the premise of why do we love it, or why are we supposed to love it, rather, we're supposed to love it because it's that Disney attraction quirkiness that it has, that you're like,
right,
is this really an attraction? This is crazy.
This one almost has a different area, not so much the history that rides with it, but a lot of family nostalgia, a lot of tied to the park, that thing that it's because you went as a kid, and it's because your parents took you to it, and it's because it's this generational thing that's been passed down, which is why it was disposable in one park, because it wasn't intrinsically tied to the park's history, and that's why That's why it's on there. It's another one of those show theaters with older animatronics and a quirky story, which is a part of Disney, but it doesn't appeal to everyone. It's not one of those like universal crowd pleasers that Disney has to build in now and in the future. You know, a ride, an attraction now, that's another thing we haven't really talked about, is Disney can't build a ride nowadays, aside from height requirements and that type of thing, that isn't a universal crowd pleaser. Like, you know, the success rate of these things have to be extraordinarily high. They couldn't build a Country Bear Jamboree nowadays, which is part of the reason why it's cool that it exists at all.
I completely agree with you there. I think it is one of those attractions where you're like, I wonder how they came up with this. And you got to think it was some guy who the night before was watching the Grand Ole Opry and he saw a bear on his way to work and he came in and they're like, hey, you got that project you're supposed to have been working on for 9 months? What's it going to be? What's the new attraction? And the guy's like, country, it's the Grand Ole Opry, but with bears. I love it. That's great. Run with it.
It's going to be in the park for the next 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah. And people are just like, this is bizarre. I don't know how it was made, but I think it's quintessential Disney. They can do that. So, Hank, I wrote down one that I didn't share with you. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting because we're talking about all these classics. And only classics made the list of the attractions that we're supposed to love.
Yes, they did.
And I thought, you know, what if there was a ride that's not an attraction, that's actually relatively new? Should that be on this list? And I wrote one down. Why are we supposed to love Seven Dwarfs Mine Train?
Oh, no. I thought you might say that. Actually, I didn't.
This is coming from a guy who worked on that attraction. So that attraction has a very big place in my heart. I love it. I really, really do. I think
This is a delicate line.
My opinions of it have clearly changed once I worked on it than before I had it. But why are we supposed to love that attraction? I think what it comes down to is it's a roller coaster that's new in the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, in Fantasyland, no less.
Yes, in Fantasyland.
I think there's some. Okay, so I'm going to give you kind of a sappy answer. Just because, I mean, if you look at what the type of audience that ride serves, you look at Disney promotional stuff and you look at, or you picture in your head kind of, you know, a child's first roller coaster with their parents, and you put them, you think of that slow motion video of them coming around the corner and it kind of shaking, you know, short ride with fun animatronics. And you kind of see like that twinkle in the parents' eyes and the child's riding the roller coaster with dad for the first time. I think that's what a lot of people are, you know, like romanticizing about that thing is that child's first coaster that's actually cool and not the Barnstormer. So I think that's kind of why we're supposed to love it. The dwarves are amazing inside. Those are great animatronics. Already starting to get a little dated in some aspects, but yeah, I think we've hit it. It's in that great location. You can be romantic about it because it's that mix of a child adult coaster. Is that a good enough answer for you? I don't know how. I think it is
because it just goes beyond the reasoning that it's new. Because that's the reason it was always busy. You know, when I was there, it was only a year to 2 years old. It wasn't. It was brand new. And being a brand new roller coaster in the busiest land, in the busiest park in the world, yes, of course, it's going to be a big draw. So I agree with you. But for those reasons, that's probably the reason of why we have to love it.
But it does. It's tough to hold it up to a lot of the new attractions, though. You're not wrong.
It is, yeah. But I think, you know, comparison is it's a hard thing to do, especially when everything moves so quickly nowadays, you know.
I look at that attraction so often, especially thinking back in the days when it was like, you know, in the Imagineering stages. Do you think that the Imagineers were disappointed with the amount that the cars actually swung at the end of the day?
Oh, yeah. Or the amount that they don't actually swing?
Yeah, sorry, that they don't swing.
Yeah, right. For sure. I think it's very hard to tell.
You can sense that. Unless you've got like 4 adult men that rock the boat.
Yeah, but you have to do that. And if you don't know that, it's hard to know. So
Yeah.
I think the way it kind of curves back and forth, in the slots and stuff, it makes it seem like it's, much more agile than it actually is. So on that, comparison, it is cool. It is definitely cool, but I'm sure they were upset. All right, Hank.
We
Well,
have to make it this heavy?
Did we have to? All right, Hank. Well, that was a great conversation. I had a lot of fun. I think we want to hear from you guys, the listeners. So, why do you love It's a Small World, The Carousel of Progress, Peter Pan's Flight, Hall of Presidents, American Adventure, Spaceship Earth, Country Bear Jamboree, or The Seven Dwarfs Mine Train? Why do you love these things? And if you have any stories associated with them, we'd love to hear them. Send them our way, Connor, CONOR, at WDWopinion.com. We'd love to hear from you. So at the top of the show, you probably heard me mention the fact that we have a big WDW Opinion announcement to make. One of the best things about starting WDW Opinion has been the community that has formed around it. I've always wanted to give Disney World fans an outlet to share their Disney opinions on everything. Well, we can finally say we are able to do just that. The all-new WDW Opinioneers community is your place to interact, chat, and connect with your fellow Disney World fans. What's a WDW Opinioneer? Well, it's you, of course. Opinioneers is a combination of opinion, for all the opinions we have and share, and Mouseketeers, for our love of all things Disney. Our community on Facebook is the very best place to interact and share your opinions with your fellow community members. Join the new Facebook group, and when you get there, let us know what your favorite thing about Walt Disney World is. You can join by going to wdwopinion.com/opinioneers. That's OPINIONEERS. And let me just say it means the world to us that you choose to listen to the show, to take time out of your day to visit the blog, and to interact with individuals in our community. I could have never in my wildest dreams believed of the community that would form around this thing. I'm just a guy who really likes to talk about Disney. You tuning in means I get to keep doing that. And for that, thank you very, very much. And that's going to do it for us this week. As always, thank you so very much for listening to the show. Be sure to rate and review us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And share the show with someone you think might enjoy it. If you liked what you heard today, then you've been listening to the WDW Opinion Podcast. If by chance you didn't like what you heard, then you've been listening to Dream Boy. For Hank, I'm Connor. We'll see you real soon.